Hello, 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 and welcome to this episode of the Gettin Creative podcast in collaboration with the National Youth Theatre, with me, your host, Shakira Newton. Gettin Creative is a podcast where I'll be chatting to folk from all creative industries, finding out where they got started, where they've been, where they're going, and getting some advice on how you can get started on that journey too. Now, there aren't many jobs in the performing arts industry that today's guest hasn't done or hasn't got on their CV. Each one as impressive as the last. I am so excited to be speaking today with actor, singer, director, voice and dialect coach extraordinaire, Hazel Holder. Hi, Hazel.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, it's always so weird, isn't it? When anyway, yeah, let's just relax on that. Yeah. Yeah.
So where I wanted to start really is just to find out where it was that little Hazel decided that this was the industry that she wanted to be in.
It's right. Okay. It really started in about, gosh, this is really going to show my age now, about 1977. And I remember, no, it must have been later than that, actually, because it was when Grease the movie was on television. And I remember mimicking Olivia Newton-John and some of my family members, you know, because we all lived together then, you know, all our cousins and everything, and laughed at my mimicry of her. And I kind of, you know, picked that up as a little girl and kind of went, oh, that was nice. They loved it. And then before you know it, I'm mimicking all manner of things on television, and then before you know it, I'm enjoying this. You know, coming from a big family, I'm enjoying the attention, and then people saying, Hazel, do that thing that you do, you know, do that. And then you kind of do your little performance and everyone laughs, and you kind of, so that's kind of where it started. And I actually have a picture in my mind of seeing Olivia Newton-John on the television, and you know, in the skin tight black leggings that she was in, those satin leggings, the sateen, and kind of like, yeah, doing all of, I mean, completely probably inappropriate as a young girl.
Isn't it funny? Like, you love Grease when you're a kid, and then when you get older, you watch it again, and you're like, oh, I should not have been watching this as a kid.
Yeah, really. So yeah, but that's kind of like my earliest memory. And then probably one of the other memories that I have is we had a picture of Muhammad Ali in our living room, and you know, and he was doing his, and I remember always kind of like trying to do the pose, and like, and then finding out that that pose wasn't just a pose, he was an actual boxer. So then you had to actually do something. And so me and my brothers, you know, would be like, just a little, yeah, just having a little play, and cousins, and just kind of boxing. And so, yeah, I think I was heavily into mimicry as a young child and loved to play. And I also remember that I spent a lot of time in my imagination, because again, coming from a large family and a large extended family, just sometimes we used to live opposite wheat fields, and it's actually now called Wheatfield Road, and just spending the time kind of like in the wheat field, looking up at the sky and imagining, you know, what your life could be, I suppose.
Oh,
yeah.
That's so lovely. That's so lovely. So you did your mimicry, you did your Olivia Newton-John, without the satin trousers, because I don't think I've ever known anyone else to ever be able to pull them off, to be honest.
I know, and I'm just going to say the word Samantha. I'm not going to give her second name, but someone that I was at junior school with, and I remember her turning up with a pair. She had a brown pair with black piping down the sides, and I remember just at that age, even just like my jaw dropping and going, Samantha Keller's got Olivia Newton-John's trousers. You know.
Oh my God, in John's trousers.
So,
Would it be John's body in Greece as well to go with the trousers?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, oh gosh, yeah. So it's yeah, it's such fond memories of those kind of childhood days.
And did you do a lot of acting and drama and plays at school?
I didn't at junior school, although I remember, and I still have, and because I've just recently moved somewhere, I will have the report again. But I do remember finding a report years ago that literally said if Hazel spent as much time studying as she does talking, she'd be like an A-grade student. So I was clearly one of those children at not drama school, at junior school that was always just so, and bless them, they probably just didn't know what to do with me, you know.
I feel like I've spoken to so many of my friends who are in the performing arts industry, both in front and behind camera or on stage or backstage, who were quote unquote naughty kids at school. And it's just, you know, the school setting isn't a place for creative people, unfortunately. They haven't found a way to make space for people like us, because, you know, sitting in an hour-long lesson, sitting still and being quiet, I've never been able to do that.
No, not even in a rehearsal, you know. So I'm just like, let me get up, let me just do something, you know, and feel something and move my body. So yeah, it's I always remember seeing that report and I felt slightly crushed, because I thought I was an A-grade student, you know, because I thought I was popular, I was funny, you know, and so you don't understand at that age, you know, the difference between academia and, you know, and kind of like school, the popularity of being, you know, in friendship groups within school and enjoying the process of school. You know, I actually really enjoyed school. I don't remember looking back on my junior school days and thinking, oh, I can't bear to go into school. But it probably also helped that one of my teachers at the time was involved in a relationship with someone that was in a band. And I didn't know that at the time. It was only after I'd left school and I saw him at a gig and was like, oh my gosh, you know. So it's that thing that I think that he probably saw, that kind of that beautiful creativity in that young child, whereas other people didn't, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think, again, another thing, speaking to a lot of different creatives and speaking to a few people from doing these podcasts, is a recurring theme of having one teacher that saw you as not the naughty kid, but as, you know, you've got potential. It was the same for myself. I was so disruptive in class. When I look back, I cringe, because I just think, God, no, like if corporal punishment was stood around, I really would have got a smack. But I had a drama teacher and he was the head of drama. He came into another lesson that another teacher was teaching me in, and he'd sat and watched it for a bit, and he at the end grabbed me and I thought, oh no, am I in trouble again? And he was kind of like, you know, you've got something, you have real charisma. And I had to go and Google what charisma was, because I didn't know what that was. And he was like, you've got real charisma, and you know, I think this acting thing, I think you should give it a real go. And genuinely, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had any idea what I wanted to do with life, and I would have continually been told that I wasn't good enough to do this, or I was too disruptive to do this, and it would have really taken a toll on my confidence. But once I found my love and interest in drama and ran with it, you know, there was no stopping me. And I think it's so important to have that in a school setting. So it's really, it's great that, you know, you had that also, because he had been around rock stars.
Exactly. And then when I transitioned into high school at the time, I became known as the drama nut. You know, I had a best friend at the time, Donna, and we just, you know, we got caught bunking off of maths class, and we were rehearsing something, you know, and I remember the drama teacher at the time kind of saying to us, I'm really happy that you're rehearsing it, but you know, I get into trouble because people think I'm putting, you know. So we suddenly started to understand there was that kind of tension between, you know, what we wanted to do and what we were expected to do. And but I was constantly called a drama nut. You know, we were just, oh, they're the drama nuts. There they are. There they go. You know. So, but of course, I didn't mind that. I just thought it's better than being a nothing nut. You know.
I mean, it's paid off.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, and I'm still here and still enjoying being a drama nut. And I just think to myself, actually, I feel really grateful that I found something that truly gave me pleasure in life, and that I'm still able to find pleasure in it, and that I'm still able to be asked to find pleasure in it, you know, that I'm being paid to find the pleasure in it still. And so I just think, you know, I'm literally going from, you know, that young age to now, and I'm still within that creative world that I love.
They obviously do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And then there's some people that will come back and counter that and say, actually, you know, once I started doing what I loved as a job, it started to, you know, not be fun for me anymore. But do you think the fact that you've had so much success in so many different areas of the performing arts industry, that might be why you've still got such a love for it, rather than you've only done the one thing forever?
Yeah, I definitely think that has helped my brain to stay engaged. One of the things that I love about theatre, about performing arts, about, you know, the creative industries, is the fact that, you know, I can look back on each year of my life and go, they were all totally different. Because I was, you know, each journey of that year was completely different. I was with a different set of people. We were all creating something completely different to the thing I was creating the year before. And so that for me is really exciting. And you know, I'm married to someone that does the 9 to 5, and I know that what I do isn't for everyone. He loves knowing that he's got that job, and he gets up and he goes to do, you know, he goes to do his job every day. It's different because he's not in an office, so to speak. But yeah, so I know it's not for everyone, but I'm fed by it. I'm truly fed by it. And I also love being around people who are like-minded and who are as crazy as I am sometimes, you know. So yeah, I really, really still find total enjoyment. And I spent probably the first 10, 15 years of being in the industry really being a singer, and singing in bands and singing in shows. And then I retrained. I went to the School of the Science of Acting, and because I just really wanted to hone being an actor, and and understand that process in a way that was much more specific than kind of the broad strokes that I'd done. And so I went and did a year's course there. It was just a part-time evening course, but that really helped me to focus on being an actor. And so then better acting roles started to come my way. So then again, there's that change. And then whilst I was in a show at the National and working there, I had to do, the play that I was in had singing in it, and I was singing in it as well as acting. And the head of voice, Jeanette Nelson, who is still the head of voice there, just introduced the idea to me about being a voice coach. And at the time, I was like, no, thank you very much. Don't want the responsibility. You know, I see directors sweating. You know what I mean? I see MD sweating, and, you know, all the people that are on the creative team, kind of like, I see them having the stress of it. But also then you see the other side of the relief of knowing that you have had a major part in creating something. But at the time I was just like, no, I'm really happy doing what I'm doing, which is performing. But that seed was sown. And then also the conversation that she was having with me was about the fact that actually there are not enough Black people on this side of the table. This was 10 years ago. So yes, 2009. So 11 years ago, Death and the King's Horseman at the National. And so when I started to think about that, and suddenly, yes, okay. So we need more Black and brown bodies to be on the creative teams, but also to be kind of like, I'm trying to think of the right word, for people that are in those shows to feel connected to people who are in some kind of position of, and I don't want to use the word status, but in some kind of a position that they kind of think, when this journey starts, I'm not just seeing kind of like the puppet masters who are all white, you know, that I'm actually seeing a real community of people in terms of ethnicity, culture, social, gosh, I can't think of the word, you know, whether you're working class, middle class, what's the word?
Social, economical.
Yes. Of course, my brain has literally, you know, when you're on a tangent and you literally just go, I can't think of that very well, of how, you know, in terms of class, you know, and economics, exactly.
In that last 10 years, would you yourself say that you've seen a big change? And if you have, is it a big enough change with regards to having more BAME people backstage and, you know, in the creative team rather than just acting?
BAME over.
No, that's why I do it in the inverted commas, because I don't like BAME or BIPOC, and then it's like, I just never know what to say.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I would say that in terms of directors, a lot of the directors that I've worked with as a voice coach, as a voice and dialect coach, have been Black and brown people, which is really encouraging. And someone that I work with a lot, Ola Ince, you know, so I've really enjoyed watching her trajectory in the industry, and she's an incredible director. And also one of the things that has been really exciting for me, especially working with Black and brown people, is that there's this idea much more about community. I don't want to say that I never found it before, because I did, but there is just this inherent idea that that we build community much more. And that's partly because we have found ourselves being the only person in spaces. And so you kind of end up going, right, I need to feel my people around me. Yeah. And so when we're working, we then have this, you know, me and Ola talk about tag teaming, you know. So I love being in a production as a voice coach, a voice and dialect coach, where I'm not just parachuting in for, you know, one session. I don't even see what's happening in the room. I'm just with an actor doing a one-to-one, or, you know, or a succession of actors doing one-to-ones, and then I see the last run through. And, you know, I much prefer being in the space and kind of like contributing to the journey of how someone can grow their character, grow the production, by kind of hearing what people are talking about and kind of going, I can help in that moment, actually. And I think there's a lot of the younger directors that are coming through now of all colours, of all, you know, of all colours, are much more thinking about this idea of community much more. And it's really, really exciting. And one of the things that I've been asking for, you know, in conversations with other voice coaches and also in conversations with producers, is by saying, actually, I don't want to juggle, you know, 3 jobs all at the same time. You know, I'd much prefer to kind of go, oh, all right, I know, especially in theatre, you don't have the budget to kind of like have me there all the time, but I would much prefer to kind of go, actually, I'm just juggling 2 jobs at the moment, and so I can be with you for 2 days, you know, 2.5 days this week, and be with someone else 2.5 days. I think that is much more exciting, and in places especially, and in productions especially, where you don't have a resident voice department, such as in the National or the Globe or the RSC. Actually, I just think it's incredibly helpful that the you know, I'm then not being called during tech, so-and-so's lost their voice, and you know, it's like if we're part of the journey, it's like we, as I say, we head this off at the pass, you know. So it's and also I just love feeling part of a community. I don't want to feel like I'm like the spare, I was going to say a rude word, but a spare at the wedding, you know.
So zip. You had the seed sown in your head for voice, and decided at first, not really for you. At what point were you like, actually, do you know what, I'm going to give this a good go?
It was when I actually gone, I'd spoken to a couple of people that I'd known for quite a while. One of them is Mike Henry, who is a musical director as well as a fabulous and amazing composer. And he actually wrote my introduction letter for me to join the master's degree course at Central. And I had a good long conversation with him because he's so academically bright. And actually, I also had another conversation with A.D. Grummet, who's an opera singer, an animateur, and a writer, and spoke to her. He spoke to the 2 of them about it. And because I was quite scared, because you know, you go back to this idea of being, if Hazel, you know, spent as much time studying as she does talking, she'd be like, so you're thinking, why am I going to put myself back into a situation where I have to be really academically strong? I'm not an academically strong person. I'm a person that feels people's energy. I'm a person that, you know, kind of like receives and is able to respond to people in the space, in a shared space. And so I was just really scared. And also, I'm a certain age, you know, I'm not in my, you know, I wasn't in my 20s, 30s, I was in my 40s when I was thinking of going and doing that course. And so I was thinking, literally, there's going to be people who have just come off of a BA course who are going to be in that academic place that they're really quick and strong. So there were so many things, plus the fact that I'm a jobbing actor and singer. So that means I'm not going to be working for a year. So what's going to happen in terms of finances? So all of these things I had to really weigh up. But what was so great was talking to Adi and Mike, was they said to me, they have really helped me to realize that actually so many of the things that the course was asking me to do, I'm already doing. And I think that's one of the things that Jeanette also was trying to help me to understand. And so when I went to speak to Jane Boston, who's the head of the course and is still the head of the course at the time, right now, they said what we're interested in and what we don't get enough of are people who come from an experiential background. We have people, so many people that come from an academia place, but actually, you know, the way that you've had to use your voice in all these different productions and, you know, in Death and the King's Horseman, again, I was just doing things. I didn't think I was doing anything special. So I'm finishing Act 1, singing an African song, here we go, you know, kind of in that, what, you know, you'll, I don't want to get too technical, but your vocal folds are in one position, and then starting Act 2 with your vocal folds in another position of, you know, ha 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 ha, you know, doing a little pseudo classical song to open that. And so, and also the way that you're having to speak through the production. And in fact, one of the musicians said to me when we were in, I think, the last week of the show, he said to me, he said, I just need to say that I've never gone through a show like this where someone is using their voice the way that you have to use your voice in this. And that he said, I literally thought, that's not going to last. She's going to be off. She's going to have a sore throat. She's going to this, going to that. And he says, and I'm really impressed that you've gone through the whole production and you've been on it every single time. And I just, it's those kind of comments that I was kind of like, oh, I never thought that I was going to be off or have a sore throat or not be able to sing. So there's clearly something that I was doing vocally that Jeanette noticed that is healthy, in terms of all the different sounds that I was having to make. And so talking to other people, it did make me realize, okay, I'm not just kind of doing this, I'm really, really good at it, technically good at it without realizing. And that comes from experience, but that also comes from the joy of it. You know, I just love doing it, you know, even to the point that, you know, it was a full moon the other night, or is over the next few nights, and I just loved singing at the moon, you know.
I move in with you. We've got a spare room. I want to live there. That sounds amazing.
So yeah, so that's why I, you know, I ended up doing the course, was because speaking to people who knew me just gave me the confidence to know that actually I'm doing this already, and actually the course will help to give me structure about how to help other people to do this.
Especially if you haven't got like a brain for academia, because in my voice classes at drama school, this is one of the things that I get myself stressed out on, because I'm someone who I don't like to move on until I've cracked this bit.
Yeah.
I need to perfect this bit and then we can move forward. But obviously, like, the drama school can't afford to stay open for a few more months just so I can catch up.
Yeah.
And because, you know, like you said, you already had it. You already knew what you were doing just off the top of your head because you loved doing it. You were doing it.
But that's the thing. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just experiencing I was just doing it. So that was the thing, is that.
Yeah. And when it gets relayed to you, like, okay, doing this with your vocal folds and tilt this, and I'm like, I'm so in my head about it, but exactly. I think you just have to do it, don't you?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that I think I came from a place of not being able to explain to people technically what was doing, but a feeling, and then giving options of different kind of imagery about what that feeling may be for you. But the course gave me the opportunity to understand what I was doing. I mean, you know, I want to be open here in the fact that I'm dyspraxic, and I'm on the dyspraxic dyslexia continuum, and so I'm more on the dyspraxic, but I've also got dyslexia. So I really struggled through the course, and even after the first, I think, 6 weeks, I thought, this is not for me, I'm leaving. And I literally had a complete breakdown in one class, where we had to teach each other a little kind of like a little breath exercise, and I knew exactly what I was doing in my head. And then I was teaching it, And they were all like going, what? And I was going, but hold on a second. No. Why are you questioning me? I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm saying. This is how it, and then I realized, oh gosh, okay, I really need to focus on what other people are experiencing in order for it to happen in their bodies.
It must be so difficult explaining a feeling that you're feeling to someone who's not like in your body. That must be so like frustrating.
Yeah, and after that, I knew I was going to get really low marks, and I literally was in a corner of the room crying. You know, a grown woman just going. And I just felt embarrassed. I felt angry with myself. I felt angry with the course because I felt like you've hoodwinked me into coming here, and actually I'm not going to be able to do this at all. And actually it is academia, because all these academics who don't necessarily have the same experience that they can do, you know. And so I was just in this whole thing, and I remember people saying to me, no, you are amazing, you just got to carry on. And I went home that night and had a chat with my hubby and just said, I'm not carrying on with the course. And he was like, what? And you know, this, and I was just like, yeah, I can't. And talk to my sister and talk to my parents, and because I felt that everyone had kind of invested in the fact that I was, you know, and I was also the first person in my family and in some of our extended close family to do a university course. So everyone was so excited for me, and so I felt that weight, you know, and also I was the only Black person on the course, you know, and not just the only Black woman, the only Black person on the course. And I definitely felt this weight of going, okay, you're really letting the side down now. You're letting yourself down, and you're letting the side down. And that weight, I think people really underestimate how that weight can actually be too much for people. And I just feel very, so, I don't even want to say the word lucky, but, you know, I know that I was supported. I was really supported by my family. And so when it came to it, they said, we're going to help you any way that we can to get through this. And they did, you know. So even things like, in order for me to study for as long as I needed to study, I never had to cook at all for the rest of that year. I was trying to be, I think, my normal self, which is superwoman, of kind of like coming in, oh yeah, I'll help cook dinner, or I'll help clean, I'll do this, I'll go and run and get some shopping for mum and dad because my parents are elderly, you know, all of that. I was trying to be the same, and then stay up until 2-3 o'clock in the morning studying. And because of my dyslexia and dyspraxia, I realized I can't do that. It's like I'm writing with my left hand the whole time. And so once I realized that in order for me to get through it, I was going to need to accept help, accept that I needed help, it actually became, I wouldn't say easier, but it took so much weight off of me. So much weight off of me. And I have to say, doing the course was one of the best things I ever did, because it helped me to understand so much more about myself and my determination and my ability to learn under pressure. And yeah, my ability to still actually eventually come back to me whilst being in a place that I felt wasn't necessarily allowing me to be me.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to remember this section of the podcast when I'm just about to start my 3rd year. So I need to tell myself that. I need to remember to be me and come back to a place where I am still. It's so easy when you're in that environment to just get so caught up in everything other than, you know, things that bring you personal joy.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. And one of my mantras was, is to Don't let it take away your joy. Don't let it take away your joy. Don't let it take away your joy. And I would come sometimes literally walk in. And I'm not saying it's because people there were taking away my joy, but I'm just saying the experience of trying to learn at the age that I was, which wasn't that old, but with the challenges that I had with neurodiversity, and also with the fact that actually I just want to get up and do everything. I don't want to necessarily talk about it and study it. I want to do it and try it. So I really had to keep working on keeping hold of my joy through that process.
I'm taking that mantra. I'm going to get it tattooed on somewhere on my hand. I'm going to keep looking at what would Hazel do.
Oh gosh, yeah. And one of the first things is I was breathe out. We don't do enough of that. So
no. Yeah. Especially when you're concentrating. I remember when I used to do ballet and you concentrate and the teacher used to have to say breathe, because we were concentrating so hard that you forget to breathe.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing, is that, you know, for life we will always breathe in, but breathe. I just noticed that the lighting was going a bit skew there. I'm going to put a light on to help. But hopefully that helps now. But yeah, to breathe out, you know, is we need to get rid of that carbon dioxide. We need to feed. We need to make sure there's space for the new oxygen to come in, to really feed, literally feed our brain cells, feed our body. So there's a book, and I don't have it on me, but it's called When in Doubt, Breathe Out. And I just love the mantra of that. So keep reminding me.
You're giving me so much. I'm going to take this all with me. I start on Monday and I can't wait. I'm just going to be like,
oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went in for my COVID test today. We're going to get weekly COVID tests, which is awesome. I think it's really good.
Hold on, which drama school is this?
East 15.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I don't know how they've managed to wangle it, but antibody tests, I think it's every week or every other week. I went there today, the campus is covered in big white tents. It's kind of like a sci-fi film or like a zombie film. But I'm COVID free.
I know, and I'm COVID free, and it's
like I didn't have any symptoms and I knew I didn't have it, but when they called my name and called me round, and he was kind of like, the test was negative. But the way he said it was made me think, for a split second, I was like, oh my God, I've got it. And I was like, no, he said the word negative. It's fine. But yeah, start on Monday. Obviously, beginning of term nerves always start to kick in. I just think it's where it's like the third and final year, but it's also the third and final year, and we have no idea how it's going to go due to this pandemic that's happening. But it kind of keeps it interesting and keeps it a bit fun.
It does. You know, we have to remember this is a once in a lifetime pandemic. You know, the last time was, 100 years ago, and that we just have to kind of learn patience actually through all of this. I'm also, if I'm want to be political about it, I'm not really watching this government, about how they are handling it so badly. I'm watching how other governments who are handling it better and who are actually communicating honestly, or as honestly as they can do, with their people. So I'm kind of just watching what's going on around the world rather than
I mean, how can you even listen to it? Like, even if you were listening to it and paying attention to it, it's gibberish anyway. So I get my mum to watch and then give me bullet points.
Yeah.
She can do the hard work. She can translate the buffoonery. And
also, I think to myself, let's just use our own common sense as well. Not, it's like we have agency, people, and let's use our own common sense. And, if the science is saying that actually, when you look at other parts of the world where they use masks, all the time anyway, when people are just having colds or through flu season. So I'm talking about, Japan and China. Then I'm kind of like, what's the hardship if it's actually helping other people, and helping yourself as well? And I don't know. I just, I don't want to get into the whole political part.
No, I know. It's so easy to get into. I mean, it's been our lives for the last, 7 or 8 months. So I completely
Yeah, but the biggest thing I think we need to learn through this is care for each other and patience. And I know that's a kind of like an out there thought, but you know, that's what I'm trying to live my life through, is to think about what my actions may have for other people.
That's it.
And yeah,
Even if you don't, you know, even if someone doesn't believe that it is real or doesn't want to wear a mask or etc etc, I just think even if it wasn't there, even if there was a slight chance that it wasn't actually a real thing, I'm still going to wear my mask just in case, because you know, I won't be the one who then gives it to someone else and then they end up having worst case scenario.
And I have elderly parents who, you know, I love dearly and who I love hugging. And so, you know, my dad is, you know, diabetic and living with cancer. And so you just want to kind of say, you know what? I want to be able to occasionally give them a safe hug and not think that I've lived my life recklessly enough to not be able to do that, you know. Yeah, there are other people I've kind of gone, it's probably quite good that I'm not hugging you.
Right. I was saying it to my friends, I was like, at least I've got an excuse to only have to see the people I really want to see and only have to hug the people I really want to hug.
I'm just like, it's really going to be political statements when things get back to some kind of normality, when you do see those people and you go,
just give them an elbow. So you obviously mentioned that you learned, well, not learned, but you knew what you were doing with regards to voice and dialect coaching through what you could feel. Did you take that and put that into your teaching, sort of teaching other people to feel it rather than, you know, here's a chart of a throat and this is where it goes?
Yeah, I mean, of course, one of the things that they taught us on the course was that we need to know what's going on technically and what's going on, you know, with the muscular system. But what works the best for creative people is to have the imagery that is associated with what is happening technically in order to get them through it. Because also, you know, you don't want to be thinking when you're on stage, oh yeah, now I lower my larynx and tilt my, you know, you just want to think, have a slight yawn, or you just, you know, so there's, so yeah, so it's about attaching the the creative kind of imagery to the technical in order that will help someone in a moment to kind of change their muscular setup in order to help themselves.
Amazing. And obviously that works with speaking on stage and with singing.
Yeah.
With regards to accents, how, just in a very, very basic term, how do you go around beginning to teach an accent? Is that very much the similar thing, you know, placement, etc.?
Yes, it's placement, it's energy, feel, you know, melody, rhythm. You know, when you think about kind of the rhythms and a melody of the variety that you have in the Caribbean, you know, and you can kind of decide, not decide, but you can feel that Jamaican melodies is much more linear than Trinidadian, you know, than Bajan. So it's kind of, so I try and absolutely go from a position of feeling something. And using hand gestures to help. And so even last year when we were but seems so far away now, but last year working on Small Acts and the Steve McQueen films, that kind of, there were all these different Caribbean accents, and sometimes the way that I would encourage someone to find their way into some text is, you know, we would remember the music that influences that particular island, or you would find the rhythm, you know, in listening to a speaker from that particular island, and just kind of like, I would just often say to them, keep tapping out the rhythm on your leg. So when, you know, you're said, yeah, go back to the green room, we're going to change the lights, all of that downtime, that's the time to kind of like get it back into your body again, so that then when suddenly action, you're not having to think about something, it's already in the body. It's like riding a bike, isn't it? It's like, you know, once you've done it a few times, how it feels, what adjustments you need to make in your torso to stay on balance. So it's like, I constantly try and remind people that feeding little and often into yourself, into your body, of the rhythms, you know, of the melody, about how it feels in the body, is your greatest advantage. Of course, we've done the work and the sessions of placement, sounds, you know, all of those things. But ultimately, you know, I don't want to sit and watch a fantastic accent. I want to sit and watch relationships and, you know, and see people bringing something to life. And you can't, if you're in your head thinking about, you know, I just think that work has got to be done before, and then you've got to, so that's the work that you are doing. And then when you're in the moment, you've just got to be in the moment.
How long would you say the work part usually is? Obviously it's going to vary for different projects and different people, but do you have to put quite a bit of effort in the work part, like quite a bit of time in there, and then move on?
It is absolutely to do with the person, the actor. And because some people can take kind of some broad strokes that you give them after a couple of sessions and they run with it. Other people want absolutely every word that they are going to utter on screen or you know, in the theatre, to be, for them to feel confident and for them to be able to let it go, they need to feel like they've gone through every word. So it really depends on the person. But I often say that kind of trying to, if I put it this way, the most successful accents and integration between the speech systems and someone's character and what the actor is doing to bring something to life happens because the work has started before rehearsals.
Yeah.
Because I always say that, you know, the director is the parent on a job. And so, you know, I'm like the auntie. So when I come in and say, they ignore me and kind of go, but what does daddy or mummy think? You know, so of course, you know, you're with the director every day. So, and you're having the conversations about creating this beautiful work. So I often say that if we can get the relationship between the bridge between where you are and where you need to be for the character, if we can bridge that before rehearsals, then it means that when you start rehearsals, you're not having to really think and juggle. It just means you can actually just start to put all of that into place when you're talking to mummy or daddy, you know. And so when there's been budget for that, and I've worked with an actor, say, I don't know, for 2 hours a week for 6 weeks, you know, especially if they're a lead character and they've got a lot of text, then I would say those 12 hours, because you're setting homework as well and you're being able to focus on very particular sounds that you kind of think, okay, this is their nemesis. So we can really work on that before they get into that even more vulnerable space of being in front of the rest of the company. And, you know, so yeah, so I think if you can, 6 weeks beforehand, minimum, if you can, you know, like I always think about the Will Smith, there's an interview where he talks about when he knew that Ali was going to be made, that he started to get ready because he wanted to be ready. He didn't want to get ready when they said, okay, the job's yours. He was getting ready before he even knew whether the job was going to be his or not.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I wanted to be ready for even the process of winning that job.
That's it. And it's like you say, I think the biggest thing for myself from an actor standpoint when it comes to accents is what you've just said with the regards of like being too worried about getting the sounds right on the words to then actually give the performance the energy that it needs and what it deserves, because I'm so busy thinking, oh, you know, every time I say that vowel sound, it sounds funny.
And that's completely taken you outside of yourself. So now you're completely in passive imagination as opposed to actively being in the character. And for me, you know, and as an audience, we recognize that. We might not be able to put a finger on what it is that we felt as changing in that shift change in energy, but we feel something and we know, oh, that's not, oh, they're not quite in it. You know, you often will say, oh gosh, that actor was so in it. And let's, you know, understand it is so much about taste. You know, one person's, you know, jam is another person's Marmite. So, you know, it's so much about taste. But I know the performances that I've enjoyed are when someone is just in it, regardless of whether the accent is on point or not. And and they're just totally immersed in what they are doing. Yeah, because we will forgive you. You know, we will forgive you, because also it's like we understand it takes a village. And for all of that in that moment of your performance to be distilled down into what you as a performer might feel is perfection, but what is perfection? We will all go mad if we try and find it. It takes so many layers to come into, you know, alignment. And so I'm just like, yeah, I just want to go and enjoy a performance.
Yeah. And so if I get a casting call and it is my casting, but it says I need to do an accent which I've never done, a Nigerian accent which I've never done before, is it still a possibility I could get that role and learn on the job, or do they want you to have the accent before you go?
No. They just want to know, can you be other than your voice? You know, ultimately, can you still be truthful in something that is not your voice? You know, ironically, I did have a conversation this morning with a producer that's saying they want me to work with some actors before the second round of auditions. And again, they reiterate, we don't need them to be perfect. What is perfection? But we just need to know, do you think they will get there? You know, so we're going to be casting people that you think, you know, will actually be able to get there. And then also we can start the process of actually, you know, they're not filming until the end of November. And so now it's about thinking about, okay, we've got some time. We've got October and November, once those people have been cast, to actually start the process of having them on the journey of creating that beautiful synergy between, you know, of creating the character in all its fullness and truthfulness. So I just think time is always of the essence. When you think how, you know, these are fine motor skills, you know, and gross motor skills, so movement, you know, we can see, I can kind of say, oh, I need to put my hand over there and touch that. Oh, and now I need to take my tongue tip to create a different sound to what I'm used to every time I say, or I need to bring my tongue tip. You know, it's a fine motor skill and it takes time. Not the same amount of time, but, you know, you think about how long it took us to form speech as a toddler, you know, as a young child, to then all the years, you know. And so, of course, it's not going to take that because we are adults and we have, you know, greater understanding. But it still takes time. And for some people, the fear of it can get in the way of the doing of it. And so sometimes you just have to allow people that time to let go of the fear through the sessions in order that they then come to the place where they go, oh, I can do this. And I'm like, yeah, you can.
And how can you put the difference between someone who has you know, got the ability and ready and open and willing to do it, but just a little bit nervous and anxious about doing it and a bit of low self-esteem in that area, and then someone who is probably just not going to be able to get this accent?
It's that's such a good question, because it's always so much down to, often I will talk about people's thinking, and sometimes you will see people thinking really quickly and they're ahead of themselves, they're ahead of me, they're ahead of the work, they're ahead of everyone, and you're just kind of going, just breathe out, slow down, you know, you're
That's so me. When I'm in class, teachers are like, Shakira, calm down, I've given you 3 weeks to do this. I'm like, yeah, but I've already planned what I'm going to do, and I think I might do this. And they're like, you don't have to do it right now.
Exactly. And so I'm just often about, you know what, let's just breathe out. And instead of you being in a position right now where you're saying, why haven't I won the race? Or why aren't I able to run when I've only just, you know, been able to sit up? You know, it's like, I'm just saying, let's just hit all the markers of being able to, you know, kind of like become a toddler before you kind of dismiss yourself and say it's never going to happen. So sometimes it's literally just in people's minds, and sometimes for me it takes me a little while to go, you know, it might take 2 sessions to go, okay, so the first session they were really nervous and they didn't hear a lot of what I was saying, they were really, you know, their thinking was really fast. And then, right, let's see the second session, see how they are, think whether they can actually follow instruction, whether, you know, any of the kind of the little motor skill markers I give them, whether they're able to do that. And then you start to go, okay, this person is going to get there. It's fine. They were just really nervous, or they were just outside of themselves. And then there are moments where you kind of think, oh yeah, they are going to get there. And then 6 weeks down the road, or 6 sessions down the road, maybe not 6 sessions, I probably know sooner than that, and I think they're not going to get there. And it's not because they can't, it's often because there is an end gaming, and it means that it's always just down to people needing to run before they can walk. So yeah, but if I'm honest, there's not really that many people that I've experienced that are in that position. So as an encouragement, I want you to know that actually most of the time, 99.9% of the time, I'm going, yeah, you're going to get there. And they do get there. And then I've worked with some people again and again, and they go, oh, you always keep telling me I'm going to get there, and I don't believe you. And then suddenly I do get there. And I'm like,
Listen.
So, yeah. So, but I just, you know, I love the process of seeing it just all kind of just fall into place for someone, and they go, and yeah, so it's just, yeah, it's really satisfying. Yeah, it's really satisfying. It's really joyful, you know. So, and it's, again, it's you know, we all enjoy other people's joy, don't we? So we get joy from other people's joy. So it's like, great. I'm being fed again.
So you mentioned earlier Small Axe, which you helped with the accents on, and you're also in.
Oh my gosh, don't even mention the in. When we mean in, it's like, oh, was that? Oh.
I'll be watching out for you. I'll be like, oh, there she is.
Yeah, it's literally just one of those. But it was really fun because we'd spent 2 months working on the first film. Was it 2 months? No, we'd spent 6 weeks working on the first film, which was originally 2 episodes, and it was just heartfelt work because it was about police brutality, and yeah, and it's actually hard when you're on set watching people being abused, and not just going, hey, cut, hey, everyone, but going, this actually happened. this actually happened, and in real time, people didn't know that they were going to be vindicated, you know, and it still happens. I mean, don't need to say any more.
It's one of those things, isn't it? It's like you manage to suspend your disbelief when you're watching films and when you're watching TV programs. And it was something what happened to me recently is I've watched Django about 2 or 3 times before, and I was able to suspend my disbelief enough to just be like, oh, it's a gory Tarantino film, and it's, you know, it's cringy, but you know, it's a masterpiece. And it was recently my housemates were watching it for the first time, and I was like, yeah, I'll sit down and watch it with you. And it's obviously because I've done even more research into everything, as most people have this year with the, you know, the biggest black rights movement that's ever happened. I just couldn't watch it. I found it really, really, because for the first time, it wasn't just a Tarantino film with gore, but that happened to people, and that happened to people that looked like me, and that happened to my ancestors. And it was just so hard to be able to watch, but it's so important that these stories are being told, because it's more, you know, we need more people to be able to watch and go, that happened and it's still happening, and now we need to make a stand on this.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, you know, I don't want to give too much away about Small Axe and the kind of the journey that Steve McQueen will take you on in terms of how you watch the films and the order in which you watch the films. But, you know, after 6 weeks of kind of feeling like your heart is being ripped out, of course there was joy in there as well, because that's how we get through, is always with joy and the community supporting each other. But then the next film is, you know, a blues and all about things that happened to me and things that I did when I was, you know, a young teenager. And so it was really kind of fun to go from that place into somewhere where I felt that as a community of the people, you know, the crew, cast and crew, actually it's a different cast, but a community of crew, that we went from somewhere where you feel like you're holding your breath to somewhere where you're really fully breathing out. So, yeah.
I'm so excited to get watching them all.
Yeah, and it's just, and for me, that's also so exciting about it, is just seeing a whole heap of incredible Black performers. You know, there were also white performers in there as well who are incredible, and who, you know, but just kind of going, look at the breadth of talent that there is, that is so often not given somewhere for them to release and explore their talent, you know, and yeah, it was really exciting to be part of, you know, an unbelievable dream, you know. I remember when it first came, I remember in 2015 finding out that Steve McQueen was going to be doing a project in London, and I just finished the course, my master's degree, and I gained an agent, Sarah Upson, and I said to her in our meeting, our first meeting, I said, I found out Steve McQueen's going to do this. Can you keep an eye on it? I need to know when it's happening, because I was just like, I was a 1-year-old voice coach, a voice pilot coach, and I'm demanding that I work with Steve McQueen. I was just like, yeah, get to the back of the queue, Hazel, you know. And
I mean, it worked.
But you know what it was? I think it was the fact, it was Miss Letitia Wright. Because I worked with her on a play on, the play that it was at the Gate Theatre. I can't believe that my brain has forgotten the name of it. And it's written by her sister in Black Panther, whose name I'm also forgetting. This is ridiculous. So we did this play at the Gate Theatre, and it's going to come back to me.
I'm looking at my notes because I'm thinking, I know I've seen this when I did my research. I know what you're on about, but I also
Yes, tell me, please, because my brain has literally gone blank. I can't believe
Is
that.
it Eclipsed?
Eclipsed, that's it. Written by, who also wrote The Convert, oh gosh, who played the warrior queen in Black Panther. Oh my gosh, I can't, but Denai Guerrera. Oh, just came back to me.
We got there.
I feel like I've just had a really good drink of something, you know, when you finally, like, the thirst is satisfied. So I worked on Eclipsed, and it was one of my first jobs as a dialect coach, and it's one of the hardest accents, doing a Liberian accent. And I always remember that it was a running joke that I think I was paid like 7 pence an hour on that job, because the amount of research I did on it, because I saw all these, because it's a hard accent, but also when you're in rehearsals, and it was one of those where I just thought, I don't really care about how much I'm being paid. I just want to be in the space with these women, because they're amazing actors, amazing director, amazing creators, you know, in terms of the design team, everything, that I just kept coming into rehearsal. You know, I wasn't doing anything else really much at the time. I had, I think, one other job. So I just kept coming into rehearsal and watching. And whilst you're watching them create and create these characters, you're just like, Hazel, you need to be beyond on point. You need to be beyond. And so I just sent myself mad, in that sense of kind of like going, even my husband was just like, can you just calm about this job? Because I wanted each of the women to have their own Liberian accent. And the thing about Liberian accents is that they are so varied. And it's so much to do with where in the country you are, but also your social status. And it's very much in the script about different social statuses between these women. And so it was about finding a different sound file that they could kind of like connect to for each of them. That takes time. You know, you have a conversation with them about what they want. But anyway, so, and also the way that I taught them, and, you know, there was one actor in the cast who knows phonetics, and she just wanted her text phonetically redone. So I did that. Then there's other people in the cast who they just want session after session to kind of like really finesse what they're doing. And then there's other people who kind of need it done in a really physical way, and kind of they don't want to kind of, you know, so everyone had something different in terms of how I needed to approach them. So for me, it was an incredible learning experience to be one of my first jobs, in order to kind of go, you know, going back to that lesson where I'm in the corner crying because I'm not quite understanding how to reach, you know, each of my classmates. And now I'm in a place where I'm with these 5 incredible actresses, Black actresses, who are just beautiful queens, and just kind of like being able, through the beauty of time that we had in the production, to kind of go, right, you need this, okay, right, this is how I'm going to work with you. You need it like this, great, this is how I'm going to work with you. And because I think I was able, and again, it's with the beauty of time, I was able to speak to them and to their needs. You know, I've been able to work with them again and again and again. And so then when Letitia was cast in Small Axe, she specifically asked for me. And so then, of course, the producers, you know, they've never heard of me, don't know who I am. And then they say, well, who is this person? Let's interview her. And then they interviewed me and kind of went, oh, well, maybe you can do all the cast then. And I was like, okay, thinking it's a series, you know, so you, and so I had another interview. So I think I had 3 interviews or 2.5 interviews. over, you know, the time before we started production. And then one day, you know, my agent phoned me and said, "You've got the job." And I remember this was, I think, last April sometime, so April 2019. And yeah, I just remember going, I can't believe I'm actually going to be working with Steve McQueen. Okay, where are my books? I need to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, let's get stuck in. Yeah. Amazing.
So yeah, so it was, and so, you know, that journey. And what's beautiful about that is because I now have Steve McQueen on my CV, other people presume that if you're good enough for him, you're going to be good enough for me as well. So it's completely opened doors for me. And, you know, I know that she won't take it, but it's down to the open beauty heartedness of Letitia. So,
but I think you have this effect on people, because no matter, you know, your work speaks for itself and your talent speaks for itself, but also as a person, you're an extremely personable person. Because the reason you and I first got in touch was because I, on a whim, attempting to learn a Jamaican accent for third term Zoom classes for second year of drama school, messaged Leah Harvey, the lead Small Island, just to say, look, part of my assessment is to read a monologue in this accent. I'm going to read this monologue from Small Island. Could you just send me a voice note of you doing it in the accent? And we just ended up getting into this big conversation about accents, etc. And then she started telling me about yourself, and then spoke to you, and then gave me your number. And then obviously you and I had that phone call. I remember just getting off the phone call from you and just being like, that woman is so lovely, warming. The warm energy that you are now giving me here via the laptop, you know, you gave me just through the phone, and I can imagine it's even more impeccable in person. So as much as your talent and your CV speaks for itself, you know, the fact that your relationship with Letitia and how comfortable you must have made Letitia feel, you know, is one of the main reasons why you've then got that gig. So, you know, give yourself some credit on a personal note as well.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It goes back to also that introduction, is that I will often kind of go, oh, you know, and happy to give other people credit where credit's due, and sometimes we're not so happy to take credit ourselves as well. And even now, as I say that, I kind of think, you know, I want to kind of say, you know, but my mum and dad, you know, they brought us up so well, you know, all of that. So it's, you know, it is historical as well, you know, and I think to how my mum is in her community, I say her community, but, you know, in the church community, she is always someone that people, you know, gather around and seek advice from. And, you know, and the same for my dad, he, you know, plays in a steel band, and he is kind of like the rock in the steel band, you know, in Casino Royale, they are called.
Oh,
Shout them out. And of course, they're not gigging at the moment, you know, who is, but yeah, you know,
when all this goes over.
yeah, exactly. And so it's very much, you know, again, it takes a village, you know, for you to grow up in a way that makes you feel that you have a voice worth hearing, you know.
So obviously, Small Axe is out this year, isn't it, on Amazon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And iPlayer, BBC iPlayer as well.
Okay. Oh, amazing. Okay. So yeah, people can watch it everywhere. Is there anything else that you have coming up?
The thing that I was working on before lockdown was The Power, which was written by oh gosh, I'm so terrible with names.
Naomi. My brain's a sieve when it comes to names.
Really, really bad. I'm just literally seeing if I can literally see Naomi Alderman. That's it. And this script is written by Claire. Oh gosh, she's just written Rocks. You know, she's been the co-writer with Teresa and Claire. Yeah. So Rocks, which I'm really looking forward to seeing as well. I've been watching all the interviews of when they were part of the film so like the Toronto Film Festival last year and BFI, and the story just, you know, that Teresa came up with, her narrative, it just sounds incredible. And the performances of these young girls, whew.
The trailer alone deserves an award, so I can't wait to see the actual thing.
Oh my gosh, it's just pulling at your heart. And so so I can't wait as well to see it. So that's what I was working on. Literally, we were on the Saturday, we were filming, and we were due to be filming on the Sunday, and then we were due to be getting on planes to Vancouver later that week. And so suddenly it was all, you know, we were filming on the Saturday. And it's that funny thing, going back to March and kind of thinking, I kept thinking, when we're going to have a few months of, you know, lockdown or a shutdown while this thing kind of goes through everyone's systems, or, you know,
I really thought it was going to be over by now. I won't lie. I really thought, oh, we're done.
My naivety about this and how vulnerable we are as a race, you know, as a human race, was really kind of just low on the radar. And, you know, I mean, we're still here, and we will always probably still be here, you know, mashing up the planet for our own gain. But I literally thought, oh, okay, we'll just have a few months of shutdown, and then I'll still be packing my stuff to head off to Vancouver, you know, later on in the year. But so yes, that's the thing that's kind of coming back into fruition now. And again, that's a brilliant story that she has created, Naomi, and that Claire is creating for screen now, that is, you know, starts out as female empowerment, which is really great, gives us the upper hand. But of course, I'm not going to give anything away about how, you know, there's a few series to go through before we have any spanner in any works. So that's what I'm getting back to. So that's what I'm kind of starting to, you know, new scripts have been sent out that I haven't read yet, but I'm presuming that they might take into account the fact that we've just gone through a once in a lifetime pandemic, and we'll just start back on that very soon. So that's where I am.
Where you left off.
Yeah.
And if you had, you know, one or a few bullet points of advice for anyone who might be listening, any young people that may be listening, or any people who are already in the game, who are really sort of interested in going forth and doing more with regards to voice coaching or dialect coaching, what advice would you give them?
I would say, please do it. Please, you know, the greatest advice for yourself, if it's something that you kind of, you know, if you like languages, you like listening to people speak, you like hearing the differences between the way people speak, speech sounds, different sound, all of that, then keep listening. Your ear is going to be, you know, your greatest ally to that process of kind of like finding out and exploring. And then I would say, gosh, we need to set up a Zoom where I can speak to people, where I can gather other dialect coaches to speak to people and kind of answer their questions and just encourage people. Because especially in this day and age, there's, you know, there was sometimes this idea that, you know, you have to speak in only one way, you know, as an English person, you know, that, you know, I'm talking about, you listen to people that, you know, have come from Yorkshire, but they speak with the most cut glass, you know, RP accent, and that was the old way of training. And now it's much more about actually just bringing clarity into an individual's speech system. And so what we really need is we need much more Black and brown people to be in the industry, so that we are strengthening the idea that that the way that young Black and brown people speak now is good. You know, it's actually, you know, other speech systems are dying out. And this one, you know, especially when you talk about multicultural London English, it's only growing. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to, I'm kind of in that place where you go, speak to me, you know, because I don't want to be inundated, you know, but also at the same time, you want people to feel like there is a way of connecting with someone in order that they can feel like they're just not in a silo of going, but I'm not sure if it's for me. I'm talking to a young girl who's currently going onto the course, onto MAVS, Kiran, give her a shout out. A wonderful actress who's now going to add being a voice and dialect coach. She's Asian, and so this is great. And also another young voice coach who's already done the course, Eleanor, who so we speak, and you know, and she's going to be what's the word? She's going to be sitting in on some sessions that I'm conducting as well. So it's about kind of like, yeah, just kind of seeing and feeling that this is for you, you know, and you can kind of only know that if you've had conversations with people. I really didn't think this was going to be for me, you know, and I got onto the course in 2011, but I actually didn't do the course until 2013 because I was scared and because of, you know, financial worries as well. You know, I come from a working class background, don't have any money, historic money to kind of like fall back on. You know, it's just like you work and you pay your bills, you work. So, so I think, yeah, being able to talk to someone is going to be really helpful for people. And I'm sure, you know, we can maybe facilitate if enough people kind of contact National Youth Theatre and say, actually, yeah, there's 10 of us that really would like, well, then I can get another 3, 4.
We can set up a workshop.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
Throughout lockdown, throughout this really, really odd year that we've been in, National Youth Theatre have been doing Monday sessions every Monday, and been doing workshops from directors and actors and writers, and yeah, I'm sure we can get you one set up and have people tune in and
exactly who are just in. So it's not about it's about us answering all their questions and just saying, you know, if this is what you want to do, you know, start looking at this, start listening to this, start, you know, focusing in this area. And happy to do that.
Amazing. Yeah, let's get that set up.
Yeah, great. And I hope people out there listening and watching this podcast actually kind of go, yeah, there was a little spark in me that thought that, but I just thought it wouldn't be for me. It is for you. So let's have the conversation. It is.
Amazing.
And we need you. We need you. We need you. I just looked at myself for a minute and thought, no, that's not going to work. We need
amazing.
You.
So
the industry needs you.
That's it. And you know, it'll be an important one, and I think it'll be one that'll be quite popular. So we'll definitely get that one set up.
Right.
Now, speaking of sort of going past this podcast, we wanted to make this podcast as accessible as possible. So if you listeners at home, if yourself or anyone that you know would like to catch the closed captioned visual version to see our lovely faces, you can head over to the National Youth Theatre YouTube channel to find that. And with regards to social media, if you go to Instagram and go to @Gettin Creative Podcast and Twitter @Gettin Creative Pod, we will be announcing all new different episodes that are coming out and different guests that we're having. We will be announcing the workshop once we've sorted it out with Hazel Holder, and we'll also be adding Hazel's social medias there as well, so you can go and follow her, check her out, and yeah, follow her on her journey as well. But other than that, that's all the time we have today. Hazel, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
You are so welcome. I'm just, really, really happy. You just had some amazing questions, and it's just been, I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's not felt like a podcast at all. It's just felt like a really lovely conversation. So great. Thank you, my
Mainly just because I'm nosy.
Great. That's what you need to be an actor. You just need I want to know.
Yeah, I just want to know everything about your life. It was from the moment you said you sang to the moon, I was like, right, let's go. Let's talk.
Yeah. I'm just like, I know. And with my husband just raising his eyebrow in the corner somewhere.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We'll see you soon. Bye.